So everything in this video I'm about to say is about to sound like hate, but I promise you I'm not hating. So I want to applaud the Oklahoma City Thunder for this season that they had. I know last year they were a play-in tournament team. They had a really good later half in the season, and they showed a ton of promise. But what they were able to do this particular season was unexpected, right? They jumped from being just a playing group, one of the youngest teams in the NBA, bringing in yet another really young player in Chet Holmgren in his rookie year. They go from being that last season to being the best team in the Western Conference. They're playing elite two-way basketball. They have one of the most talented young rosters in the NBA. SGA, in my own opinion, has been the league MVP. I don't think anybody's had definitively a better case. They're probably going to give it to Nikola Jokic, but I think the fact that SGA led this young Thunder group to the best record in the Western Conference over Nikola Jokic's team, over Luka Doncic's team out in the West, that to me solidifies him as the league MVP. And I also like his defensive numbers. He ended up, I think, tying De'Aaron Fox in steals per game on the season. And he's also averaging a ridiculous amount of points. So I think SGA has been the MVP. Chet was ridiculous in his rookie year. He just wasn't better than Victor Wembanyama, who ended up having one of the best rookie years, arguably the best rookie year in NBA history. And like I said, we got great stuff from Josh Giddey. You got great stuff all around. Isaiah Joe off the bench was amazing, showing that he could be the NBA's future ultimate 3-and-D threat. So there is so much promise, so many great things out of this Thunder team. I do think Mike Daigneault is the NBA's coach of the year. But with all of that being said, right, all of those great things about OKC, I think they're in a position right now to where they're going to be the first one seed in the Western Conference, maybe in NBA history. And if not NBA history, definitely in recent NBA history. They're going to be the first number one seed in the West, who, in my opinion, isn't going to be the favorite in whatever playoff matchup they end up getting. So here are the playing scenarios here out in the Western Conference, if you're not hip already. So we have the Lakers matching up against the Pels. That is a 7-8 matchup. Winner of that game ends up getting to meet Denver in the first round of the NBA playoffs. So for the Lakers, a ton of incentive to throw that game, because I know for a fact they don't want to face out against Denver in the first round and risk a first round loss. Then on the other side, we have the Kings and the Warriors at 9-10. Loser of that series or loser of that game goes home, and winner of that game faces off against the winner of that 7-8 matchup. And whoever wins that game ends up with the 8th seed. So from the way I'm seeing it, I do think Golden State is going to end up beating Sacramento, outing Sacramento out of playoff contention. And I do think the Lakers are going to end up losing to the Pelicans to try to get in that matchup against Golden State, to try to go for that 8th seed, because it makes them a very favorable matchup against the Oklahoma City Thunder in the first round. Even Golden State, if the Golden State Warriors end up beating the Lakers or the Pelicans, if they get past the Sacramento Kings and end up with a first round matchup against OKC, I still have them favored over the Thunder. So the Oklahoma City Thunder are in a position right now to where I think no matter who they draw in the first round, even if it ends up being the Pelicans, I think they're not going to be the favorite. I don't see them beating a team like New Orleans or a team like the Lakers or a team like the Warriors in a 7-game series. Hell, what if the Kings end up making it? Are we 100% sure that they can beat the Kings in a 7-game series come playoff time? Those are major questions to ask, because they haven't had their way against any of those groups that I just mentioned. And when they played Golden State, they kept it the closest. I think they had a couple of really good overtime games against them, but the Lakers have had the upper hand against OKC for most of the season. The Pelicans have had the upper hand on OKC for most of the season, and the same with the Sacramento Kings. So it's really, really weird. And I think that speaks right now to how wide open everything is right now across the league. And I talk about it a lot. You have a position or a situation where the number one seed in the West, if they end up seeing the Lakers or the Warriors or even the Pelicans, they're not going to be the favorite. What is the last time in NBA history where in the first round, right, well, it would have to be a first round matchup, where the 1 seed isn't favored over the 8 seed? Because you can't tell me realistically, if you're putting money on it, that OKC is going to take out LeBron and AD in a 7-game series without any injuries. I think the only thing stopping LA in that type of series is injuries. You can't tell me you're putting money on OKC to stop Stephen Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson in a 7-game series in the first round. You can't tell me you're confident in that. Same with the Pelicans, with the way they've been playing, right, and how deep they are as well. Are you putting money on OKC beating them in a first-round playoff series through 7 games? I don't think so. So it's a really, really strange situation. I think right now this is where OKC's youth kind of becomes a wall. So right now they're the youngest number one seed in the Western Conference and number one seed in the playoffs in NBA history. And they're the first number one seed for the OKC Thunder since the 2012 2013 season. But as I said, I think that youth and that general lack of experience is going to be a bit of a wall for them, right? If we're looking at the Pelicans, CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, those guys have been in some big playoff games throughout the course of their careers. Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, they only have 4 NBA rings together. LeBron and AD, a plethora of big playoff games throughout the course of their career, and also a championship on top of that. So experience means a lot. And I think that it's great to talk about the youth of OKC and all of that. That's great to point out, and it speaks to the significance of their performance this season. But I think that general lack of experience that they have is going to create a wall for them come playoff time. And I love their two-way play, but your question is, through a 7-game series, if it even ends up going 7, can they guard LeBron through a 7-game series? Can they guard AD through a 7-game series? My answer to that is no. I think the Lakers just consistently have their way throughout that series. If it's the Lakers matching up against the Thunder, I have the Lakers in 5. If it's the Thunder matching up against the Warriors in the first round, I think I've got Golden State in 5 or 6. So to me, there's no situation really, even if they face Sacramento, and I think they'd have the best chance against the Kings, there aren't many scenarios where OKC ends up with a favorable first-round matchup as the 1 seed. As I said, how many times throughout the course of NBA history has that happened? Now, the same thing could also happen in the Eastern Conference. What if we had the Miami Heat ending up as the 8th seed and they match up against the Boston Celtics? We saw what happened last year, and I know we're dealing with a more talented Celtics roster that has Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis on the roster now and everything. But Miami, we see it every single year. They have their way against the Boston Celtics. There's something about Miami that the Celtics just can't seem to get past. I think 4 out of the 5 times they've met up in the playoffs over the last 5 years, they've beaten them. So that could also be a situation in the East where, and it'll be a little bit different, right? I think Boston is still going to be a favorable matchup. They're still going to be favored over Miami in the first round if they end up meeting them. But it's the first time, probably, in league history where it is a major, major possibility that in both the Eastern and Western Conference, the 1 seed can get outed by the 8 seed. Maybe it'll happen like with one conference and the other conference, not so much. No, right now, if the Celtics see the Heat in the first round, and if OKC ends up meeting against the Warriors or the Pelicans or the Lakers in the first round, it is very, very likely that we may end up seeing 2 number 1 seeds knocked out in the first round. It's more likely for OKC than the Miami Heat or the Boston Celtics, but it is a possibility with Boston, just how we've seen this Miami Heat team take advantage of them time and time again. Very, very weird dynamic. But as I said, I like it because it speaks to just how wide open things are right now across the league. I like that no one seems to be the clear-cut favorite anymore. We're exiting this era where we had to deal with the Golden State Warriors being a lock to get to the NBA Finals every single year, where the Cavs were like a lock to get to the Eastern Conference or get to the NBA Finals every year, right? We had like, what, 4 consecutive seasons of those 2 teams matching up, or during the LeBron era, every single year, when he was with the Heat, every single year, it being a lock for the Heat to win out in the Eastern Conference and get to the NBA Finals. It would be a lock for the Spurs to do the same thing. Right now, it is a total contrast to that. The league is wide open. I don't care how great anybody played in the regular season. Right now, nobody is the clear-cut favorite. Right now, I love Denver, but I don't think they're like outright smashing everybody right now in the Western Conference. I don't think it's going to happen. It's weird, too, because the low seeds in the West, like the Lakers and like the Warriors especially, there's still this sense that even though they didn't perform as much as they should have performed in the regular season and they were a bit underwhelming, there's still that sense that they can flip this switch. Golden State, especially last season, where they struggled throughout the regular season after being the defending champions, we still felt come playoff time, they can just flip this switch. And it looked like they were going to do it in the first round. They absolutely went nuclear against the Kings, especially Stephen Curry. And then it kind of depleted a bit in the second round against the Lakers. But same deal there with the Lakers. They were underwhelming throughout the course of the regular season and end up going to the Western Conference Finals against the Denver Nuggets. So, like I said, it speaks to how wide open everything is right now with the NBA. I love it. It gives like this real NCAA tournament type of feel where it's a level of unexpectedness when you're coming into these matchups instead of just knowing, oh, this team is a lock to win it, right? and there's no way this other team is going to beat this squad. No, things are wide open, and I really love it. Love the way it is right now. And also, it's kind of like the MVP race. MVP race, nobody right now, in my opinion, has been the clear-cut guy. I'm picking SGA, but there's a strong argument for Nikola Jokic. It's a strong argument for Luka. If you still want to have him in the conversation, there is a good enough argument for Giannis, even though I think over the last couple of months, he's kind of tanked out of that top three of that conversation. But it's really healthy for the league, and this postseason is going to be one of the most interesting postseasons we've seen in a very, very long time.